is Rad with SOFREP Radio, and I am excited to be the host of this episode. I have two great guests right now. Okay, the first guest I'm going to introduce, he does true crime podcasts. He does military true story podcasts. It's Dan Benamor, and I've got Dan here. And hi, Dan. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks for being on the show. We're going to dive in now with our second guest. So I actually have a panel. This is great, right? I've not had a panel before. So you guys, we're a panel. This is a panel. There's more than two. So with that said, Lila Holley, okay, we have her on the show today. And Lila has a military background, and from my understanding, Chief Warrant Officer 4 in the military. Am I right on that so far?
Yes, Red, you're absolutely right. I served 22 years in the Army, and I retired as a Chief Warrant Officer 4.
Now, when you turn in your WAFT packet, okay, which is like your warrant officer packet of like, I want to become a pilot. Did you want to fly a Black Hawk or just something, or what? Warrant packet, you enlist. You're like, I want to become.
Yeah. I was enlisted. I made it up to the rank of E6, and I was military intelligence. So I was a technical warrant officer. I wasn't a flight warrant officer. And so you're right. I put in my packet. You have to make certain requirements in terms of rank and education on the NCO side. And so I met those requirements, and then I submitted my packet. I got selected my second look, and I didn't look back. I enjoyed it so much. I was military intelligence my whole military career, both enlisted and then on the warrant officer side.
Now, for those that are just listening to what I'm excited about is, okay, you enlist in the military. It takes usually a college degree to go straight to like officer, which is like a lieutenant or second lieutenant, the bars that are on the berets, et cetera, the uniforms. But to get to be a warrant officer, you can actually enlist and then find a field that has a warrant officer's position, and you can turn in a warrant officer packet to, get looked at. And so Lila's like, hey, look at me. I'm proud of you. I just want you to know that, okay? I know we're just getting to know each other right now, but I just want you to know I'm super proud of you, okay? Yes,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, right? Well, I mean it. I totally mean it. And, it's not the easiest thing to be in the military in any type of body, like whether but going in as a female and just bucking up and just, lacing up and probably having to put your hair up. You didn't have the release standards they have today, did you? You had to keep your hair up tight, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was
seriously, right? They've loosened that just a little bit. Yeah, right. And when you did military intelligence, can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, 22 years. What? Like, I know military intelligence.
Red, if I tell you I might have to kill you, we always have to say that.
Well, I like the might. I like the might.
No, I was a all-source technician, what they call the all-source technician. And so I was an all-source analyst, and I was the one who took all the intel information and analyzed it and briefed the general on what we thought the enemy was going to do. And so that was my job as an analyst. I really enjoyed it. I had some great assignments. I worked with some amazing leaders, and it was a great time, those whole 22 years that I served.
Did you deal with this last, the 2000s? Were you in, what year did you go in?
I went in 1990, and I retired in 2012.
Oh, yeah. So you're definitely a part of the whole OEF deployments of like Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, like the Wave 1, 2, right? Am I right?
Yes,
PTSD coming back right now, huh?
Yeah.
So, Now, that's incredible. Now, I don't know what to say. I'm just like, first of all, I'm just in awe of you. Okay. Now let me transition to Dan real quick. So Dan, you have met Lila. You've been doing military true stories, which is fabulous. Like, I love that, right? I would love that's what we're doing right now. We're talking about real things. Tell me, how did you get into, this side of the world, like what I'm doing? What inspired you? And you can't say Lila, because that's my choice.
So yeah, I work for a company called Voyage Media, and their whole sort of mandate is to bring storytellers that are maybe outside of the traditional entertainment ecosystem and kind of plug them into that. And about a year ago, they reached out to me because they knew I'd gotten into podcasting, and they wanted me to start producing podcasts for them. And as we continued doing it, it occurred to me, because we had a lot of folks that, were connected to the company that had true stories that were military stories. And so we came up with this idea of, well, we should just do a series where each episode is a different military story. And because our background, all of us, is basically in television and film, we incorporated a very cinematic style to it. So, for example, in Lila's episode, there's actresses that play real people and perform, like essentially written down memories of real veterans and stuff like that. And there's original music, and there's sound design, and there's all these different elements to make it super cinematic, where, we're trying to make you feel like you're there and you get taken on this journey with it in a narrative way.
Oh, that's legit. No, I totally love that concept where, you're telling the story and then it's being reenacted, and you're just in that vibe. That's very cool. So what story were you telling that was being reenacted for Lila down here? I say down here because I'm looking at the monitor, right? And your bottom right corner to me. I'm probably top left corner to you.
So in Lila's case, Lila already had this initiative called Camouflaged Sisters, where she sort of collects stories of female veterans, a lot of Black female veterans, but just female veterans in general. And so reading her book, one of her books, I thought it was so incredible because it was like each chapter was like a totally different and like really compelling, emotionally compelling story. And so we picked a couple. And then we also have an interview with Lila that sort of bookends the whole thing and talks about her story and what inspired her to do that. And so we essentially replicated the experience of reading her book, but in audio format.
Mm-hmm. Wow. No, that's really cool. So you're also an author there, Chief. So you've written your books. How many books have you got out there, Lila?
Yeah, I have 9 published books. 8 of them are anthologies under the Camouflaged Sisters brand. And that's what Dan is talking about.
I love that.
And I tell you, they did a phenomenal job with this podcast and really bringing it to life. It's like you're immersed in these stories. You're immersed in the book. It really comes together with the actresses reading the stories and the music and everything. They did a phenomenal job. And so what Camouflaged Sisters is our platform that I created when I transitioned out of the military for us women who are still serving, women veterans, to share our stories in our own voice. We use writing as a healing tool. And they're anthologies. So we have 8 books with over 140 women who have shared their stories.
That's wonderful. And where can we get these books? Can you just give us a shout out to that right now so we can just check them out and power to
Absolutely.
women?
They're available. You can get them through our website, camouflagedsisters.org, and you can also get them on Amazon. You can also get them on anywhere books are Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, anywhere books are available.
And the anthology is called Camouflaged Sisters. So if you just look up Camouflaged Sisters, it should probably point you into the direction. You're looking for Lila Holley involved. So if you find Camouflaged Sisters and Lila Holley, I bet you just hit the buy it now and then leave a review, because, as an author, you want to see that review. Like, let her know what's up. Like, let the future reader also know, hey, I was really captivated, or, it was maybe pulled me in. Please leave those reviews out there. That's awesome.
Yes.
And I'll check that out. I will. I just learned about Camouflaged Sisters, but if the word camouflage is in it,
yes,
I'm down.
Yeah. And you're going to love the covers there. I mean, I see what you got on.
Yeah.
I still have my camouflage.
Oh yeah, it's just, man, I was in my closet. I was like, do I wear the tricolor from Desert Storm? What do I wear for this show? And I was like, let's go with something from Finland. Okay.
Yes.
It's true. And you can see the pattern if you check us out on YouTube
I
or any of
see.
the video outlets. But those of you listening, I just want to let you know that Lila and has just proven why there is an International Women's Day in our world, when it should be every day, but at least definitely the Women's Day, which was just the other day. I don't really date my episodes because I want people to feel we're timeless, but damn it all to hell, happy International Women's Day to you. And that's I just want to tell you that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's kept me successfully married. I'll tell you what.
There you go. There you go. We got to celebrate the ladies, and I feel like.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you have to agree, right, Dan? Dan?
No question. My wife is downstairs watching my kids. Hopefully she hears me saying that. Yes, let's celebrate the women for sure.
Yes, that is. Especially you badass chicks that are going through the military and, just working the whole situation. We just need to have, like, you be president, become the president, right? Because in all of the years of war, it's always been a man that has sent us off and said our troops should go. Okay, I say we give a lady a chance to be in the same position to send our asses to war as well. Okay, just give her a shot, like, sooner than later.
I agree.
That's for you. That's what's up. That's what I'm saying. So, am I voting for you? Because I already want to. Do you have aspirations of going political with your with your bad self? Do you?
No. I'm really enjoying serving the ladies of Camouflaged Sisters and building this sisterhood and serving them. We're having a really good time.
I mean, really though, yeah. And so, Dan, what do you got going on? What's some of the upcoming true stories that you're going to be bringing us that we can tune in? And also tell me the exact website of where we can tune in to watch or listen to these tales being told.
Yeah, so you can find all of our shows by going to voyagemedia.fm. And this specific show is True War Stories Mission Report. You can, again, if you just type in Voyage Media, you'll find it, or True War Stories, it'll probably come up. But the full title is True War Stories Mission Report. And we already we have an awesome first season that is out there, and I am so proud of it. It is so cool and interesting and different settings. And we take you to World War II Italy. We take you to the Vietnam War. We take you up in the sky with a bomber pilot who was one of like 3 survivors of this crash that killed his entire unit and had to spend the entire night hiding in the most dangerous forest in Vietnam. Injured, had literally was flung out of his plane, landed in a tree, and sat there overnight as Vietnamese, kind of walked right by him, and he sort of hid and managed to survive, and was rescued.
The trees were talking, and he heard
it. And he kissed the guy. He was rescued, and he told me he kissed the guy who rescued him, and then he later saw that guy on the base, and he said, "How many other men, when you rescue them, have kissed you?" He kissed him on the cheek, and the guy said about half.
So he's getting some love right off the bat from saving him. Yeah, right. Man, Vietnam. I don't even know. I have like a.
We have another
kindred spirit.
We have another story. We have another story where there was a guy, his uncle, on his deathbed. We had a guy on his deathbed confessed what happened to him in World War II, and basically told his nephew, actually, I guess, that he was captured by the Nazis in Italy. He was marched into the Colosseum in Rome, and they were going to execute him in front of hundreds of Germans who were sitting in the Colosseum and watching this as entertainment. And he somehow survived that, and then ended up jumping through the floor of a moving train to escape the Nazis, and then hid out with this Italian family, fell in love with the Italian daughter. And we dramatized all this. Like, I found actors of Italian descent. We wrote Italian music. I mean, you kind of get to go to, I told a composer to think about The Godfather when Michael goes to Italy. It's like that kind of vibe. It's very romantic. Anyway, it's been so cool to get to bring these stories to life.
That's really cool. And I think as I hear you talking, and as I think about Lila talking about her stories, now Lila, I cheated a little bit and just like totally like became a savant about you, just in like the matter of 30 seconds. So the Philippines, what's going on in the Philippines? What? You just getting some adobo in the Philippines? Like military intelligence just going to go check out the north side of the Phil? What were you doing over in the Philippines, huh?
That was one of my deployments. Yeah, right. I had some really good deployments, I would tell you. I did deploy to Iraq, but I also deployed to the Philippines, as you know, if you read my bio, and I also deployed to Bosnia. I was assigned to Korea and overseas in England. I was assigned to England for 2 years. Like I had some great assignments, and I deployed to the Philippines and worked with the Philippine military to fight terrorism. In the 2000s, that was a big hub for terrorist activity.
Oh yeah. The reason why I bring that up is my dad was former Green Beret, and his theater of operation was the Pacific. That's what I learned, right? And so it was like they'd go over to the Philippines often, and that whole theater over there, and
I went over with the SEALs. I deployed over there with the SEALs, the Navy SEALs, and it was amazing.
Right.
Those guys are incredible. And I learned a lot.
So I do airsoft. I do airsoft war games. So we do a lot of reenactments. We have a game called NomSoft where it's a play on Vietnam, and we get a lot of people out there that maybe have asthma and could never join, or somebody who did join and wants a little bit of camaraderie still in their later days. They want to hang out, just take that seatbelt off. But I'll tell you, the commuter seatbelt, I like to call it, where they're dressed up every day in their suit and tie. But on the weekend, they can come out and be that warrior for that weekend if they could never have been one, or did do it already. But what I was going to say is, in the Philippines, boy, they have such an airsoft community over there, and I just want to give them a shout out. But they're not just doing typical, like we do mountain warfare. I'm in Utah, so we have a lot of desert, a lot of mountains, and some urban environments that we battle at and do large scale war games with like 300 fighters. In the Philippines, though, they got like abandoned ships off the coast. And they are literally amphibious assaulting in airsoft on these ships. It is like, whoa.
It sounds amazing.
Where do you draw the line? Wow. Where do you draw the line? You're like climbing up the side of a ship with your airsoft gun, just playing war games. But where do you draw the line on, what you're doing? And then the jungle environment over there. I can only imagine all of you guys out there that do play airsoft that listen in the Philippines, you want to play in the mountains. I want to play in the jungle. It's like always the grass is greener on the other side, right? Have you ever thought about maybe getting some war games on?
No, well, the way my disabilities are set up, my body is tore from the military. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I got back injuries, knee and ankle, all types of stuff going on. But that sounds really, really cool what you guys got going on.
It is. And I'll tell you something, Lila, we have friends like you that have had some issues. I had a young 22-year-old college kid who blew his knee out, and he was on the team, and he's like, I can't play no more, Rad. I'm like, why? He's like, well, my leg. And I was like, what do we do? How do we keep our guys from falling out that get hurt? Right. So we built a tank. So we have a mechanized tank for war games. And so my guy that's 55, he's had a heart attack, but his wife's like, I can't let him run out in the desert. And if he's going to be rad, you got to watch him. I'm like, he can drive the tank. She's like, oh, okay. Okay, so we got the tank. We can bring you on the tank, put you inside the turret. You can sit there and work the 40 mic, and then use the coaxial AKs.
I know. That is great.
I got you. I got you. See,
that sounds great.
Because you're all my people. Yeah, you guys come out anytime. If you're in Utah, come out, right? And it's a healthy stress reliever, right? It's consensual hunting
fun.
of each other.
Mm-hmm.
It is fun. It is fun, and you go as hard as you want to go. So that's the beauty of it all. We got some people that go hard though. I'll tell you, man. They got some like thermal optics that are about $7,000 on their $600 training gun, and you're just like, they see you like out to 2 miles, just beating your heart, tired. Just their soul is just like predator. It's crazy. It's fun. It'd be good. It'd be good. I know. So it's just like FTX,
Did you hear about the Canadian sniper?
Tell me.
Did you hear about the Canadian sniper that just went to the Ukraine?
No.
It's like Canada's most accomplished sniper in the history of Canada, and he volunteered to just go to the Ukraine because he feels like they need help. And he has a confirmed kill from like 2 miles or some insane thing like that. And he just,
I know
now he's in the Ukraine.
Yes. I know the story of him, of this sniper. I've heard of that long 2 mile shot, right? So Godspeed to that guy, right? So, I mean, someone told me if gas prices are going up, but it's going after Russia, they're good with it. And I was like, all right, I'm cool. Red Dawn that, whatever's the case, right? As long as we can, I guess the best commander at the end of it all would have no loss of life, because they'd be able to negotiate their self, to be able to just come across accordingly. I don't think that's what I think. If you can come out of it without any bloodshed, you're the man. That's what's up.
For sure. No question.
Our number one export. You know what US's number one export is? It's our military. It's our number one export. Everybody wants to be a Navy SEAL. Everybody wants to be a Green Beret. Everybody wants to be a Ranger. Everybody wants to be infantry in the airsoft world in other countries, because the number one export that we send out is our soldiers. I'm just saying, so it's totally the reason why we are the best military, though, is because it's an all volunteer situation. Everybody there, all 230,000 Marines, and you can tell me I'm wrong down below in the comments, they all chose to be there. They are all the tip of the spear, and they're ready for that, right? So I would just say, watch what bear you're poking, right? It's crazy. What do you think about this, Lila? What this situation going on, like indiscriminate bombing, and we've been seeing this on the news. Ukraine's under siege right now by Russian forces. They're asking for help in the form of ammunition and self-defense, not like give us a ride. What do you think?
Well, I have been, watching my community of women veterans very closely, because a lot of it is very triggering for many who have deployed and remember the news reports and remember being there, remember being bombed themselves, like myself. And being military intelligence, I know how to read between the lines when the news reports come out. So I minimize my exposure, because I do not want to be triggered and taken down that path again. Because like you said, like the best scenario would be to have negotiated to avoid all of this. But here we are.
Yeah.
And my hearts go out to our service members who are still in uniform, who are being called up and being deployed out in support of this. So we really need to keep our leadership of our country and the allies in our thoughts and prayers, because they have heavy and hard decisions to make. We also need to keep our military members in our prayers and their families, because our military in this country specifically, they're tired. Our service members are tired. We're just coming off of a 20+ year war. It's just like you
Yes.
said, you got 20-year-olds with blown out knees, and they're carrying heavy loads, not only physically in their bodies, but in their minds, their mental capacity, the things that they've carried over these 6 and 7 and 8 deployments after 20 years of service. I was just talking to a friend of mine, seven deployments under her belt. Can you? I mean, we
All right.
there's so many second, third, fourth order effects to the news that we hear, and the experiences of our military, that I think sometimes people don't take that into account. And so, Rad, us having lived this, we know, what that
Yeah.
looks like. So I try not to get into heated debates or hard conversations about it. I know what I can tolerate as a veteran, and I make sure I take care of myself and my community of ladies who I'm responsible for, and my brothers in arms who I look out for, and I keep everybody in my prayers.
Yeah, and support, and the prayers, 100%. And there's nothing wrong with sending that mental power and strength to the troops. And it may just hit them, and they may just get a surge through of chills, and that's because you're thinking positive thoughts for them. And yeah, there is a power. There is a power to the faith and to prayer. And not to get on some kind of religious kick, but I totally am. I agree with you 100%. And so it's a crazy time, Dan. I mean, this is gonna. What do you think? You sit here getting stories and talking to these veterans, with Ukraine going on. What's your thoughts? What do you see out there right now? How you seeing it?
Well, I'll tell you, it made me think of what Lila just said, made me think of an episode we're doing right now with a gentleman named Bob Means. And Bob served in Vietnam, and there was a battle that he participated in that he had no memory of. He returned to the United States and had no memory that he had participated in this thing. And then he saw a picture in a magazine, and then he instantly remembered it and remembered all of it. Like all this stuff that he did that he just completely blocked out. Right. We have another episode. I spoke to a gentleman. He served in Vietnam, and his first night in Vietnam, he witnessed an incident of a friendly fire, basically, and he was the primary witness of it. And he said he relives it almost daily, and it's affected him his entire life. And so yeah, I think a lot of stuff that Lila was saying, yeah, for sure, the toll of something like this is felt for generations, right? Like what Russia is and Ukraine, what's going on with them, that will be felt by the Russians and the Ukrainians. But by the way, we've been hearing so many stories of Russians who are like, hey, they just told me we were just driving over here. Like they didn't tell them, that what really was going on.
Yeah.
And, you've seen stories coming out of Russian soldiers who just were like, they showed up in the Ukraine and they were like, I surrender. I just want to go home. It's just the whole thing is just, it definitely the human toll of all this.
It's true.
I understand much better after doing all these.
Yeah, right. I just saw some video, and again, there's a lot of propaganda out there, and I get that, okay. But what I saw was a drunk, like a Russian soldier, had broken into the liquor store in Ukraine and got wasted, and was just laying on the ground, just drunk, and they had just put him under, like, you're now a POW, and he just didn't get it. He was just wasted. I mean, there's just so many, like the one guy. He was captured by Ukraine on video. I see a lot of TikTok, so I kind of see what they're going on there. And he got shot in the foot, but he was shot in the foot by his own team. It was Russia on Russia because he was trying to save like a young girl and her mom, and the Russians shot their own guy. And when he got captured, he said, they're killing us for trying to help. And they killed a lieutenant. And now I'm just loosely quoting TikTok, so come at me. It said, like, he also said in his POW interrogation that the lieutenant that was trying to help another lady and her kid was just straight up killed by their own forces. So Russia is just like kind of imploding on itself. Its own team is just like going to have like this economic collapse. This is all because they want to go into battle and just screw their people that don't want this and aren't getting the media. They're not getting that. They're just not getting the outlet. They're being told, the whole communism thing. They just don't have that outlet. Just like, it's crazy.
There's also something interesting, and you both would probably know more about this than me, but it's just my perception. There's something about Eastern Europe, about Russia, about Ukraine, just the history and how much hardship they've gone through. It's made the people so tough, and you see it in the way the Ukrainians are fighting back. You see it in just the way Russians are in general. And I don't know, is that just my perception, or is that like a real thing in the Ukraine and Russia?
I know when I joined the military, that was I joined like at the tail end of the Cold War, and that was the force that we trained on learning. When we learned like the enemy up for, it was Russia, their tactics, their techniques, and different things like that. And so they have been the model, if you will, when you want to learn like enemy tactics and what's successful and what works and things like
Right.
that. So, yeah.
See, growing up with my dad at the arm. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I didn't. I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, he had a whole closet, right? As a Green Beret, I'd go into his office at the armory just like every day, and he's like, "Hey, Aaron, go sit in the closet and just watch films," because I'm like, "All right, Dad." So I'd go in this little closet, and in there was all of these films all over the place, like a library of films, tight closet, lots of films, and a monitor. But the monitor was a real thing that I had to turn, and it would slide like model projections that somebody in the military gets paid to make, these little model figurines exactly to detail of an RPG. Everything was all Warsaw, by the way. That's what I wanted to point out. It's all Warsaw packed equipment. It was the tanks. It was like, how do you identify the silhouette? What is this MiG? What is this? What is that? All of the different types of Russian equipment, all the way down to all of his mock weapons that they had in there were like AKs and RPGs. I would literally take apart a mock RPG to learn all about its components, its fins, the whole 9 yards, because that's what the model was all about, was that whole Cold War. It's just, Russia split up during the USSR and allowed other places to become their own entities, like Ukraine, and the whole world changed over there. And homeboy in charge right now just wants the empire back. And I don't know what's up with you, bro.
Well, that's what's fascinating to me is like you look at, it's almost like history repeating, right? I mean, if you think back to Hitler, what really took Hitler out was that he went to Russia. He pushed it too much, right? He sort of had it going, pushed it too much to Russia, and that really was the beginning of the end. And I think if you look at Putin was very solid. Putin could have just chilled out in Russia for the next to the end of his life, and I don't think he would have had any issue. And now this thing with the Ukraine, I mean, to me, it feels like this might be the beginning of the end of him. Is that he's pushed it a little bit too far.
Yeah, it's like I don't want his baseball card no more. It's like
and it's all money driven.
It's like, bro.
I mean, just like you said earlier, it's all driven by money. It's more to the story. But I think something that you said, Dan, I think people in general are tougher these days. And I think, people want to fight against wrong, and I think the people of Ukraine,
yes,
they're like, wrong is wrong. This is wrong. And we're going to fight, and I think that's real. I think that's where, after coming through this pandemic, I think that's where people are. People are tired. And people want to, when you're wrong, you're wrong. And I think they're just like, no, we're not going to just lay down here. You're wrong. And so we're going to fight till we can't fight anymore. And so you got to commend that.
I think you're totally right. I think that, the people standing up together and becoming a human chain of toughness with each other is what's going to break Putin and the Russian aggression, because they thought they could probably just roll in and everybody be like, okay, we give up. You can take over now. And here's the oil pipeline stuff that you want, bro. But let's not forget, like in 2014, when the rockets that shot down that innocent airliner over Ukraine was straight up like, stay out of our business, America and the rest of the world. We're busy over here in the Ukraine shooting down civilian airliners. This dude's just not been on a good platform for a while, right? He's been wanting Ukraine for a minute. So just stay steadfast, and just put up a fight. And thoughts and prayers to all those that are in the battle right now. You know, I know there's probably Russian soldiers that do not want to be there and just want to, you know, maybe go home and just put down their stuff and just go home. And that's probably okay to do. You know, you can just go home. Just go home. If you're listening to this, go home. Just go home. Go see your wife and kids. Go tell your mama and papa that you miss them. Just go home, Russia. Just go home. Seriously, you know? And then I don't know what else to say, you know? Just go home. Just stop this whole indiscriminate killing. But I mean, geez, wow, what an episode this just turned into. I mean, I didn't even foresee this, but you know, it just organically went down this road of, you know,
can I ask
there's
Dan a
innocence being
question?
taken, you know.
Getting back to the podcast.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I find it very interesting and pretty. I really like it that more Vietnam veterans are sharing their stories, and you're making the podcast about their stories. Are you seeing more of them coming around to share their stories? Because I know that generation really took a beating, you know, they weren't really supported in their war, but now that they're coming forth and sharing their stories, I really enjoy that.
Well, what's fascinating is that time is the big X factor, right? So, for example, we have another episode that we're doing right now with this gentleman who had a story that he sort of came in with, and then there was another story, and my producer was a good producer, and he sensed it. And he was like, I have to ask you about it. You don't have to tell me, but like, you know, I can sense there's more here. And basically the guy was like, I've never told anyone this before, except for my wife. And she told me that I should tell you. And we found out that basically this guy served in Vietnam, fell in love with a Vietnamese woman, you know, ended up leaving Vietnam and then went back to see if he could be with her. And she was like, I think the episode will come out. I may not have it 100% exactly, but basically what ended up happening is that he almost got himself killed to go back to be with her. And she had to be like, hey, listen, you're an American and you were an American soldier. And I'm sort of, you know, on the other side of that in Vietnam, and we cannot be together. Like you'll get killed. I might get killed. Like there's no way we can do this. And he eventually came back to America. And as we're producing the episode, he's got pictures of her. He's got the handwritten like directions when he went to Vietnam and how did he find her at the time. It's not, you know, it's not like today. There wasn't like a smartphone. Like how did he get to her in the first place? And literally, I think he did get shot. I think he got shot in the arm or something, trying to reconnect with her. And ultimately it's a tragic love story. But again, it's like, he never told anybody that until we talked to him because, you know, enough time has passed that I think he felt comfortable saying it, but he wouldn't have done it 5-10 years after Vietnam. There's no way.
Yeah, absolutely not. No way. But that's incredible. I just know, you know, a lot of them hold their stories in. Don't you find the same, Rad, from the Vietnam veterans that you come in contact with? Like they hold their stories in. And so the fact that they're sharing now I think is great.
You know, I usually start by welcoming them home, personally, like saying, "Welcome home." I do. Any of my Vietnam veterans that I just lost a friend the other day up by my shop. He's a Vietnam veteran. When I moved into my airsoft arena about 5 years ago, we painted it all white. And he's like, I never knew I was going to live behind the White House. I was like, oh, I'll just be the president. You could be the Secretary of Defense. And then he brought me over a Vietnam emblem of his unit. And he's like, do you want to hang this in your arena? And to this day, it hangs above the door. Everybody that walks through the door walks underneath that Vietnam memento that he had gifted me as being a nice guy. Gene, I'll give him his shout out, Gene up in Layton. And so, it's just there's so many veterans right now that are from Vietnam that are now going away, right? My generation watched the World War II guys kind of go away, and then the Vietnam took over the VA floors, right? And now we're starting to see the 1990s era, you know, Desert Shield, you know, the deserts, and then they have they call them the Viets at the VA, and they call them the WWs, and they have all these nicknames for the different, you know, operations that these guys all fought in. guys and gals. When I say guys, I mean everybody. So I say that it's kind of tough to get it out of them. That's why I'm pretty good though. I'm pretty good. I could probably, get a story or two out of some guys, but most Vietnam guys are like, I don't want to be reminded about Vietnam. Like, let's just say I know someone real close to me who's a Marine, and I won't say that he's my father-in-law or anything, but he's like, don't remind me that I was a Marine in Vietnam. Right. Yeah. That's what he says. I do this, for a living. Here's what I do, right? It's like, he's like, hey, you glorify war is with your war games. And that he's come to terms with it now. He sees it's not quite what that is, even though we do war games. But the Vietnam guys, they just have this, especially the Marines, those guys saw, and did, and anybody in Vietnam saw and did, because Vietnam was just a good versus evil fight. It was like, from my understanding, it was Japan and Vietnam were fighting, and the French were in there trying to colonize it, and then the French were getting overran, and it was like, bring in America, and let's just get this thing going. And then that just kicked off. And I think a lot of guys that chose to go, did so just because the nation called them to, as their predecessors in World War II went. That's what I think, so they had that same mantra, like, I'm good, it's my turn, even with the draft on. And then you got the guys that were drafted, and they're just like, yo, man, I did some things I did not want to deal with that I've been told about, and snakes. I hear stories about snakes. I hear stories about bamboo cages on shorelines with PT boats going up and down looking for recovery for, POWs that they just find dudes that didn't make it. I've heard some things, and it's always emotional. And I guess, I don't know, I have a weird Vietnam like kindred spirit of like a past life. And so I very much gravitate towards that. Like, almost I was killed in Vietnam in a past life. And I kind of remember this veil that just didn't quite, when I got reborn. And so, it's very, very interesting. And if anybody's ever had a kindred spirit story, I'd love to hear about it, right? Like, hey, one day I was like married to a Southerner and I was a Northern captain. And I have a guy that told me that story. And today he's a flight medic on a Black Hawk. He's like, Rad, you're not crazy. I'm like, no, I'm crazy. He's like, no, let me tell you my past life. And so, I don't know. I think Vietnam's, it's not some, I'm humbled by it, right?
Yeah, me too. And I asked that question because, my thing is telling our stories, and I get on my Sisters in Arms, and I've created this platform for us to share our stories, because I feel like we lived it, they lived that, and there's nobody better to tell the stories than the ones who lived it and experienced it. Now, our stories are layered. They're good, bad, and very ugly at times, but we survived them, and I feel like our stories help the generations coming behind us, and they help us heal too. When we tell our stories, it helps us heal as veterans. That's what I was talking about with my group tonight before I came on this interview. But I understand that, and I understand now. I understand why some of them are at a place in their healing journey from that war where they can tell their family and tell these stories out in public. Because we like the love story Dan just mentioned. I mean, that how would you ever hear about that? And I listened to a story called Fort Huachuca of Black women service members serving in World War II as nurses and different MOSs that they had. And there was a love story in that space as well, between one of the Black women and a POW. So, there's so many different stories. Yeah, there's so many stories out there.
Yeah,
that we would never hear about if people never found the courage to share their stories. And so I love stories. I love hearing about our stories.
And share it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just say that because I'm an advocate for sharing our stories.
Same. We're storytellers. I think the three of us together are just kind of just what it is, I I don't know. I get kind of choked up. I don't. That doesn't happen too often, But thinking about the Vietnam guys out there, and then transitioning through Grenada, which was a sortie that a friend of mine, Max Mullen, had to go through, which is going to be an interview that we'll be doing with him. He's in the Ranger Hall of Fame, and then you've got all the way up through the 80s, and then you've got the Philippines, and people still looking for POWs in Vietnam late after the 75s in the 80s. My dad was hit up by I want to say his name was like Bo Greitz. He was like an old Green Beret guy that had like a group of mercs, and they wanted to go find POWs in Vietnam. And this was back in the 80s. And my dad's like, I have a family. That's exactly kind of how it went. He's like, go on and find them. Go ahead. Right. But it is. They were looking for them in the 80s. Like Bill is still out there. They wanted to go find Bill. Whoever Bill was, whatever Bill is to them, whether it's a love story of that lady, that his lost love, that's crazy. Those are movies. That's what movies are made of.
That's right.
Yeah, that is right. That is.
That's right.
That's amazing. So now, Lila, with your deployments, was there anything gritty? Like, did you get shot at? Did you ever have to return fire? Did you ever get into anything like that?
Nah.
That's just like a straight rad. Okay.
No.
So you stayed healthy.
I stayed healthy. I mean,
no Purple Heart
rounds came in and stuff like that, but
mortar rounds.
I wasn't on any convoys or anything like that.
No, and those that were, though, those are stories that are just, I've got a friend with no legs because of those types of stories, it's just so incredible. And
I had to provide intel to those guys. And so I took my job very, very seriously to provide them the best intel that they can have to be safe in those situations. But yeah.
Thank you for doing that. That's awesome. That's way awesome.
Yeah.
Well, look, okay, so I feel like we've had a really good episode. I feel like we could bring you back again and have more stories with Dan and with Lila, so I feel like, is there anything that you would like to tell me? Would anybody that is listening that would a book coming up or anything that you have to say? Now's the chance. SOFREP listeners love to hear what you guys have to say. So Lila, do you have anything coming up that you want to discuss, or any one last website?
Well, I would encourage them to visit Voyage Media's website and take a listen to the podcast. They're amazing. They've done an incredible job with the production of these. I'm so pleased with the episode on Camouflaged Sisters. And follow us on social media. Especially if you're a woman veteran and you're looking for a new platoon, if you're looking for a sisterhood of ladies who can just wrap their arms around you, who know what you're going through, what you've been through, reach out and connect with us. We're on Facebook, Instagram as Camouflaged Sisters, and we're on LinkedIn as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm going to go follow you right now. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm going to go do that. As a matter of fact, Camouflaged Sisters. I'm going to go do that. I am. Camo. Why not?
CAMOU. It's a hard word to spell sometimes. There it is. OUFLAG.
It's my favorite color.
Mine too.
So that's, what's your favorite color? I'm like, camouflage. Whatever's blended in that pattern is my favorite color. Wonderful. So Camouflaged Sisters on Instagram and all social medias. And then Dan, again, it's Voyage Media, right? You bring the reenactments, stories with. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's voyagemedia.fm, and I'll shoot you, Rad, the direct link for the True War Stories podcast. You can maybe put in the show notes or something if anybody wants to check it out. We've already done 5 episodes that are super cinematic and really take you on a journey. And we're currently producing more episodes, and we're very excited to keep doing this series. We're really proud of it.
Well, that's wonderful, and I'm very happy to have had both of you on the show on this episode. I'm stoked to be able to host for SOFREP and get to go around and meet all sorts of interesting people and pull out your captivating stories. And I really want to thank you for spending your evening tonight with me and our listener that is listening right now. And if you have a crazy story about Vietnam, or you want to get on with my SOFREP show and you want to talk about your war story, drop us a line down at the bottom, and I'll have one of our producers reach out to you and try to coordinate it. And, you never know if Dan might be able to reenact it for you. Okay. So it's a very tight knit community here. And we want to support you. And I want to tell you out there, if you're a veteran debating on whether or not you're worth anything in this world, you are. Okay. I love you, and I want you to stick around. And if you have any questions, you can hit me up at Rad Rockin' on Instagram. I will talk to you. I'll say, what's up? You want to come war game or anything? So, check on your battle buddy, check on your neighbor, be a good person in this world, and send positive vibes to those who are in harm's way, because they really do appreciate that, whether you know it or not. So I want to say thanks again to my guests, Dan and Lila. And my name is Rad, and I'm going to say peace for SOFREP.com.